Today on Cook's Country, Natalie makes Bridget a streamlined recipe for classic roast beef tenderloin. Adam reveals his top pick for tongs. And Lawman makes Julia the ultimate Lyonnaise potatoes. That's all right here on Cook's Country.
Have you ever wondered why beef tenderloin is so expensive? Well, it's a clear example of supply and demand.
On average, a 1,200-pound steer will yield 240 pounds of ground beef and stew meat, 126 pounds of chuck roasts, but only 15 pounds of tenderloin.
That is not a lot of supply, but its tender texture, mild flavor, and zero gristle puts tenderloin in high demand from American consumers.
Which means that butchers can charge upwards of 20 bucks a pound. So it pays to know how to cook this pricey piece of meat the right way.
We're heading into the kitchen with Natalie. She's going to show us a foolproof way to make classic roast beef tenderloin. Let's head in. Here's a scary story. I found a butcher online that sells beef tenderloins that are trimmed, tied, all ready to go for $77 a pound. That's pretty terrifying, but we've got an answer here to that. It'll save you some serious money. Natalie's here. She's going to show us how to prepare beef tenderloin.
So let's talk meat. A tenderloin looks very impressive on a table. It can feed a crowd. It's really easy to carve.
Sure.
And it's extremely tender. But it's absolutely expensive.
Crazy expensive.
You can buy an untrimmed tenderloin and break it down yourself, and you'd be able to save a lot of money and be able to make a great sauce out of it as well. So you're going to want to find a 6 to 7 pound untrimmed tenderloin for this recipe. But if you are purchasing a pre-trimmed one, you're going to want to use a 5 pound roast. And we're going to start off by patting it dry.
And what's amazing is this whole thing probably costs right around $100, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, but save you some serious money.
So you can start peeling off some of this fat somewhat easily with just your hand. Before we start any of the trimming, this long muscle that runs through the side is called a chain. We're just going to take this off so we can make a sauce with it later.
So Natalie's using a boning knife to start here because a boning knife is very flexible, very thin. She's going to be able to get in there without taking away too much meat.
So this top portion is called the head, and then this part is called the tail, and usually the middle portion is referred to as the Chateaubriand. We do want to leave some fat on here, but these larger pockets are inedible, so we're just going to take them off.
So you're just getting rid of all the visceral fat that's on the outside?
Yes, all the visceral fat that kind of won't really break down. But we also still want some fat to
baste the meat,
yeah,
right?
essentially baste the meat. And so for this part right here, there is some silver skin that you can pull off with your hands.
So Natalie just took off the silver skin. That's basically the fascia that's on the outside of the meat. That never really tenderizes at all.
No, it does not. So I'm kind of just angling this boning knife upward and doing a soft sawing motion and pulling this other piece of silver skin to take it off. So we know that tenderloin's a very hard cut to cook properly.
Sure.
Because of its weird, odd shape. It's thicker at the head and then it's thinner at the tail. We realized that the easiest way to get around this problem was just to make 2 roast. See where the base of the head is over here? We're gonna cut about 1 inch below it.
Okay.
So this is 1 roast. And then this other one, we're gonna tuck underneath and then tie it.
Nice.
Just about the same size. We're gonna tie our roast at 1 inch intervals. It's a little bit easier to start at the middle. And then we're also going to do a double loop on the knot so it stays. We're only gonna tie it 3 times over here on the tail end so it retains its shape and it cooks more evenly.
Great. It's going to keep that bottom part tucked under.
Correct. We're gonna do the same thing with this roast as well. We'll snip. Right, so roast, you're good to go. This is 2 pieces of plastic wrap, and we're gonna start with one of these roasts, and we're gonna do 1 tablespoon of salt, and this is kosher salt. So we're salting on all sides, not just the top. We really want this salt to penetrate.
Unseasoned beef is
A travesty.
terrible. Yeah, it really is. That's a great word for it.
I feel like it's rude. It's such a disservice.
That's exactly it. It's rude.
So this is good to go. And again, this is 2 pieces of plastic wrap.
Just to ward off any leakage.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're gonna do the same with the other roast as well. I'm gonna refrigerate these for 12 hours, up to 24 hours, but anything past the 24-hour mark is gonna cause the exterior of the meat to get too dry.
Okay.
right, so our roasts have been salted and they've been in the refrigerator for 12 hours. And I just took the plastic wrap off and we're gonna add pepper now, because if we would have added it before, it would have just come off with the plastic wrap. So we're gonna cook these in a 250-degree oven, and the tail end is gonna take about an hour to 20 minutes to an hour and 40 minutes, and then the bigger roast will take an hour and 40 minutes to 2 hours. So low and slow for the roast.
Keep the juices inside.
Exactly.
All right.
Thank you. So meanwhile that's going, we're gonna start on a sauce with the chain that we reserved. We're just gonna cut this into 1-inch pieces. We're not gonna take off a lot of the fat or the gristle on here because we're gonna end up discarding the solids.
Gotcha. Now, if you didn't have the chain, if you were starting with a pre-peeled tenderloin, you could just buy a little bit of beef stew meat.
Yes, 12 ounces of stew meat.
Great.
So this is 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter. And to this, we're just gonna add our chain. So we wanna spread this around so they're not on top of each other. We're gonna let this meat go for about 10 to 12 minutes on medium-high heat, or until a really nice fond forms. So it's been 10 minutes and we have a great fond already formed. So we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. We wanted to keep these classic red wine sauce flavors, and we also wanted a lot of umami as well. We're just gonna cook it for a little bit to get that tinny flavor out. This is 2 cups of red wine. We want to be using a medium body wine, like a Côte de Rhône or a Pinot Noir. This is 2 cups of beef broth. And then at this point is where I want to start scraping down those brown bits that were on the side. To this, we're going to add 1 shallot that's been thinly sliced, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, again for another umami component.
Nice savory flavor.
Yes. And 1.5 tablespoons of sugar, just to balance out all that super savory flavor that we have. And then 6 thyme sprigs. And again, we're just gonna see if we have any more browned bits. Let this come up to a boil. We're gonna cook this until it reduces to about 4 cups, so 12 to 15 minutes.
Okay, and this is not the time to pull out the dried thyme. You want to add that fresh thyme because Natalie added both the stems and the leaves. There's a lot of flavor compounds in there. You paid money for that beef tenderloin. Might as well make the sauce as good as it can be, right?
So this has been cooking for about 15 minutes, and let's just see if it's about 4 cups worth, and then we'll drain out the solids.
Okay.
So we're just gonna strain the solids. It's better to go fast with this. We want every last bit of flavor in here. So we're gonna pour this back into our saucepan. Turn this back up to medium-high, and then we're gonna add a slurry to it. We're gonna add 2.5 teaspoons of cornstarch to 1 tablespoon of cold water. So we wanted a thick sauce, but not too thick, like how it is with the roux, where it just kind of becomes stodgy. We just wanted something that was rich with a little bit of a mouthfeel, nothing really too super decadent. So we're gonna add our cornstarch slurry to boiling liquid because we want the starch granules to activate and to actually swell up and to thicken our sauce.
Otherwise, we'd end up with cornstarch dumplings.
Exactly. We just wanna be whisking in the slurry to completely dissolve it in the sauce. We wanna boil it for about 30 seconds until it's slightly thickened. So on low heat, we're gonna add 4 tablespoons of butter, 1 tablespoon at a time, because we don't want the butter to break. We don't want the milk solids to separate.
Looks beautiful.
It looks very velvety. It smells awesome too.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I just wanna taste this just to double check to see how the salt is. We're just gonna add a little bit of salt to this. So I'm just gonna put a lid on this and keep it warm. I'm gonna remove it from the heat, and we're just gonna wait for our roast to be ready.
Okay.
Thank you.
Huh.
Okay,
So I've got questions.
Okay, so they don't look pretty right now. I know they don't look pretty, but they're not browned yet. I just wanted to temp the tail end of the roast since it tends to cook a little bit quicker. All right, so it's 125. So we're just gonna put this on our cutting board. We're gonna let it rest, and then we'll put the other roast in. If you could tent that for me, that'd be awesome.
You got it. A little bit of foil.
And the door as well. So this head end roast, we're gonna let it go for another 20 minutes or until it reaches 125.
It's a little bit thicker.
Yes. So our roasts have been resting for 20 minutes.
Let's take a look at those beauties. Yep.
Beautiful. I know. So this is 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, and we're gonna heat it on medium-high until it's almost smoking.
Gotcha.
And right before we do that, we're just gonna pat dry our roast.
A dry surface makes for a better crust.
Correct. Just about smoking, we're gonna put in our roast. So we wanna brown these 5 to 7 minutes, constantly turning them.
There it is.
So just within a couple minutes, we got an awesome crust like that.
All right, about 5 minutes more.
Yep. All right, so our roasts are browned, and we're just gonna take off the twine.
They're browned. That's just half the story. They're gorgeous.
They're beautiful.
They're mahogany, crusted. It really does make a difference to start roasts and meat in a lower oven, like 250, because it also dries the exterior a little bit. Then when you brown it, it looks like that.
I'm just gonna cut these into 1/2-inch slices.
Look how juicy that is.
Yeah, very well seasoned throughout too.
I've cut into beef tenderloins that were more reminiscent of the Kansas Dust Bowl. They're so dry.
How many slices would you like?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, two, sorry.
Okay, so 2 slices for you.
This is what we call an appetizer. All right, and we have the sauce here.
Yeah.
Nice and warm still.
It's very delicious. You're gonna wanna drink this sauce, trust me.
That's it. That's all it took to get through that. The texture of the meat is buttery. It is so tender and juicy. And I love the crust, that dark color on the outside. And even as it's getting towards the exterior of the roast, it still is medium rare. You cooked it perfectly. And I'm in love with this sauce. This is perfection. Now, like, great technique, great tips, beef tenderloin for dinner, I think, every weekend.
I'm glad you like it.
Well, a classic roast beef tenderloin dinner is actually easier than you think. Trim a 6-pound tenderloin yourself and reserve the chain trimmings. Cut the roast into 2, season with salt, and then refrigerate overnight. Roast in a low temperature oven until the meat registers 125 degrees. Meanwhile, make a sauce by browning the reserved trimmings. Stir in tomato paste, then red wine, beef broth, and fresh thyme. Simmer, strain, then thicken with cornstarch and butter. Rest the roast, then sear afterwards. Slice the beef and serve with that beautiful sauce. So from Cook's Country, a foolproof plan for a fabulous classic roast beef tenderloin. We're gonna be here all day eating that, you know that.
That's fine.
We'll get you right back to the video. Check out Cook's Country's newest book, The Complete Cook's Country TV Show Cookbook.
Over 16 seasons and more than 600 recipes are condensed into this cookbook, jam-packed with every recipe we feature on the show, plus stories, tips, and reviews.
Go on the road with Cook's Country and tour the U.S. through food. Get inspired by dishes from restaurants, regions, and chefs all over America.
All in this one convenient cookbook.
To order your copy of the Complete Cook's Country TV Show Cookbook, scan the QR code or visit cookscountry.com to continue your Cook's Country journey.
Tongs are an essential piece of kitchen equipment, and the difference between a good pair and a bad pair is in the details. So Adam's here to break it all down for us.
You know, they're almost like an extension of your hands.
They
Julia.
are.
There were a couple of new models on the market. We were curious, so we put together this lineup of 8 different sets of tongs. The price range was $12.88 up to $19.99, and they were all 10 or 12 inches long. Now, testers did a ton of testing. They used them to manipulate tortillas in hot oil to make taco shells. They browned a 4-pound beef roast in a Dutch oven and then transferred it to a roasting rack, so you're turning that roast around, getting different sides of it. They portioned angel hair pasta, the really thin kind, which is slippery and hard to pick up. 1 pound of it into 4 separate portions. And they used it on the recipe for chicken fried steak. So they were both dredging the steaks and frying the steaks. They also picked up a single rounded toothpick.
That is my favorite test.
It's a great test, and it's hard to do. Those things are really hard to get a grip on. And they transferred ramekins filled with 4 ounces of pie weights into and out of a Dutch oven with 1 inch of boiling water. They also had a wider group of testers come in from throughout the office into the kitchen and use these tongs to take a bunch of asparagus one spear at a time off of a roasting sheet when they were roasted, put them on a serving plate, and to repeat that angel hair pasta test. Now, I want you to give these a try. See what you think.
All right. I like the color. That's all right.
Yeah, now check these out.
Oh, yeah. I definitely would have more grip with these. They're easier to close than these. This is actually, it's not quite a fight. I could use them, but I have to say, if I had to use these all day, say out at a grill or something, my hand would start to hurt. It's almost like an exercise. I wonder if I would get a hand cramp.
That's exactly what the testers thought. And they got curious about this because there were different degrees of force required to close these things. So they took all the tongs to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where a materials science and engineering expert used a tool called the uniaxial tensile tester. And that told us exactly how much force is required to close these tongs. And there were sort of two ranges. The upper range, the stiffer tongs, required between 0.7 and 0.84 pounds of force. The easier tongs, the ones that had a lighter touch, were between 0.44 and 0.57 pounds of force. Those red ones you have in your hand, the highest of all, 0.84. You know, and we all thought that that's okay for one or two quick moves, but as you said, hand cramps if you use them for too long.
Yeah, well, and the devil's in the details. Those are points away from each other.
Exactly. Now, testers also gave some consideration to the locking mechanism, which is my pet peeve with a lot of tongs. And there were basically two types in this lineup. Unlock these for me, would you please?
Yeah, that's not bad.
No, they're not terrible.
Not terrible.
Try unlocking this one. There you go.
This works.
The two types were the kind that you had to pull out, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but you did have to use two hands. And this type where you just push it in.
You're sauteing something, you reach over, grab your tongs, you have one hand, done.
Exactly. A seemingly minor difference, but if you're at critical mass in a recipe or juggling a bunch of stuff going on, that actually does make a difference. Now, the business end of the tongs is called the pincers. That's where you pick stuff up. See what you think of those.
Oh, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. I feel like I wouldn't get a grip on anything. It actually, if you look at it, it only touches on the very ends. The whole middle is wide open.
You're batting 1,000. That's exactly what the testers thought. Testers, by and large, didn't really like the ones that have straight edges, especially in that test where they were picking up the beef roast and turning it around in the Dutch oven.
Oh, yeah.
The straight edge tongs slid up the roast a little bit, didn't grip it nearly as well as they wanted. They definitely preferred pincers that are scalloped like this, as opposed to pincers that have straight edges like that.
Yeah.
They also preferred bare metal pincers than coated silicone ones because, again, the grip was better. So these are actually the tongs to beat. These are the OXO Good Grips 12-inch tongs. They were $12.95. They have that sweet spot, 0.55 pounds of pressure necessary, so a nice light touch. They have the right kind of pincers. They have the right kind of lock. They have little silicone inserts in the arms, so they're super comfy. And they are our tongs of choice.
All right, so there you have it. Devil's in the details when it comes to tongs. And our winner is the OXO Good Grips. They're the 12-inch tongs for $12.95. Love what you're watching? Take your cooking to the next level with our Essential membership. Get instant access to thousands of recipes, tips, techniques, product reviews, and step-by-step videos. Our Members app allows you to search by ingredient, set dietary preferences, and save your favorite recipes. For those looking to level up, our newest feature, ATK Classes, offers more in-depth instruction led by ATK experts, so you can gain greater confidence in the kitchen. Start your free trial by visiting the App Store or going to americastestkitchen.com/YouTube today. Lyonnaise Potatoes, named for Lyon, France, is a classic side dish that takes leftover cooked potatoes, slices them up, and sautés them in a lot of butter with a little onion. And they're delicious. And today, Lawman's going to show us how easy it is to make this simple side dish at home.
That's right, Julia. Nobody wants to wait around for leftover potatoes.
Not for a side dish this good.
No, so we're going to use raw potatoes. Here I have 2 pounds of peeled Yukon Gold potatoes. I'm just going to finish prepping them. Now you want to cut the potatoes on the thicker side, about a 1/2 inch.
That is pretty thick. Usually the old recipes I've seen cut them much thinner.
The thicker cut is going to allow them to fit in the skillet easier, and also it's going to allow more browning on the potato, and it's not going to overcook.
Makes sense. Now you also mentioned Yukon Gold potatoes, which is slightly different than the russets that I find in a lot of recipes.
Correct. We found that Yukon Gold potatoes had a deep flavor and a tender texture. We also tested russets. They were a little too dry. And also red potatoes, we just found they were just okay. The Yukon Gold potatoes were the best by far.
Okay.
Now for the onion, I'm just going to slice it thin. I'm going through the pole to pole or right through the root end of the onion. And I like to start on the small end of the onion. Just going to cut it thin using a claw method so I don't cut my fingers. I go about halfway. Keep the wide end right here so it's more stable.
It's that last slice that always gets you though.
This is the part where I feel like, is it worth it? And maybe not.
Protect your fingers above all.
And I'm just going to do the same thing with this side of the onion.
So there are two ways to slice an onion, pole to pole, or the other way where you get sort of that rainbow effect. Now when you cut them pole to pole, the onions will actually hold together better during cooking. When you make those rainbows, those get very soft and actually get a bit wormy. So better off going pole to pole.
Yes. Now let's get cooking. So here I have 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter in a 12-inch nonstick skillet over medium heat. I'm going to add our potatoes and 3/4 teaspoon of salt. So other recipes have you cook the potatoes and the onions at the same time, but we found the cook time of the two ingredients never matched up. You ended up with raw potatoes and burnt onions.
That makes sense.
Nobody wants burnt onions.
Nobody likes burnt onions.
Exactly. You could cook the onions separately, but instead we're going to stagger the ingredients, starting with the potatoes. So I'm going to cover and cook the potatoes until they're tender and golden brown, about 15 minutes. It's important to cover the potatoes so they cook through, and we're going to flip them occasionally to get even browning.
Makes sense.
Julia, it's been about 15 minutes. Let's check on the potatoes.
Ooh, those are beautiful.
They look gorgeous. Now I'm just going to turn the heat down to medium-low so that when you add the onions, they don't burn. So I'm going to add our sliced onions, half teaspoon of salt, and half teaspoon of pepper.
Ooh, you can hear those onions just starting to hit that butter and start to fry.
And we're going to cover and cook these onions until they're tender and golden brown, about 10 minutes longer, stirring occasionally. So it's been about 10 minutes. Let's check the onions for doneness.
That looks gorgeous.
I like to test onions one of two ways. I either take a fork and kind of poke it to see if it's soft, or the best way I find is just fish one of these guys out, taste it, you know it's done, you know it's seasoned well.
Yep.
In this case, it's both. So I'm just going to take it off the heat. Now, potatoes Lyonnaise, it's somewhat of a rustic dish, but it's also elegant at the same time. I can't exactly serve it to you in the skillet. So we have this nice platter over here.
I like it, rustic but elegant.
And before we eat, I'm just going to add the classic garnish of this dish, which is a tablespoon of minced parsley. It adds a pop of color and some fresh flavor. So let's eat.
All right. And I love that it was cooked all in one pan, because as a side dish, you don't want to use up every pot and pan in your kitchen. You want it to be simple.
No, you don't. You're right.
Onions are tender and caramelized.
Potatoes are nice and brown and creamy. You notice that parsley really adds some fresh flavor.
Well, the potatoes are delicious. They're perfectly cooked through, fluffy in the middle because it was a fairly thick slice, but it's nice and crisp on both edges. So you get a dual texture.
Exactly.
And the flavor of the onions worked its way into the butter. So everything's coated with a very gentle onion flavor. Lawman, these are delicious. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
So if you want to make Lyonnaise potatoes, start by peeling and slicing 2 pounds of Yukon Gold potatoes into 1/2-inch thick slices. Using a nonstick skillet and 4 tablespoons of butter, cook the potatoes over medium heat until they're just tender. Then stir in a sliced onion, turn the heat down to medium-low, and continue to cook until the onion is tender. To finish, simply transfer to a platter and sprinkle with parsley. From Cook's Country, a great recipe for Lyonnaise potatoes. These are delicious. I'm gonna need a few more. If you're ready to take your cooking to the next level, head over to americastestkitchen.com and get a free trial of our ATK Essential membership. While you're there, you can sign up for our free email newsletters and download our app. So, what are you waiting for?